Welcome back, Flagrant Takes. We have another great episode for you today. We are blessed with one of the UK GOATs, in my opinion, if not the UK GOAT in the UK basketball scene. Today we are joined by Sam Nita. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Thank you very much for the very, very kind intro.
Listen, there's like literally 17 years worth of things we can talk about for you, bro.
Yeah.
We got stuff from when you started all the way to where it is now. Give us a little introduction into how you came into the scene and what you think the scene's at right now.
So that's a big question to start with. So I guess, I used to play back in the day. I think like everyone thought I was going to the NBA. Didn't give up on that dream for a long time. Didn't realize until way too late, I would say. But after I graduated from university in West London, wanted to stay involved with basketball, trying to find things that I could do, trying to come up with ideas, and originally wanted to set up late night scrimmages to keep kids out of trouble. So the platform originally launched under a completely different name, Ball Don't Brawl, and the idea was to run late night scrimmages, and had a little bit of background in sort of internet marketing. And I was like, I have a website, and that will be the platform that makes people aware of the runs that we're doing. So I launched the platform, was filming some bits, and had a lot of messages, people being like, what else are you covering? What else can we be doing? And I just thought, you know what, maybe this is what I need to do. For me growing up, had no idea about the UK landscape, had no idea about prospects, had no idea that we had players playing at the highest levels. So I wanted to fill that gap. So I sort of rebranded, relaunched as Hoopsfix in January of 2010.
Yeah.
And then, I wanted to be the one-stop shop for everything British basketball. It sort of evolved from there. I wanted to earn a full-time living off being a media platform. Quickly realised that the audience is not big enough to earn a full-time living off being a media platform. So then I wanted to get involved with doing things that are actually going to impact the game. Started running events, launched a foundation that's trying to grow and raise the profile of basketball in the UK. And then I've obviously got an agency that works with basketball teams, brands and organisations trying to do anything they need in the UK, whether it's events, operations, logistics, marketing, content, sort of anything to do with basketball, sort of we'll do it. So I guess that's a quick overview of everything.
That's a skim. That's my biggest interest when I was looking into you was how you started off with the Ball Don't Brawl, and how it started off as you wanted to keep kids off the streets, wanted to do that. Now that you've obviously done Hoopsfix and you've done all these big events and you've got the foundation going, would you ever come back to that and be like, maybe not have it as Ball Don't Brawl, but now, okay, this is Hoopsfix and we're going to do late night scrimmages this week, and instead of making it, you have to be a certain level, listen, just anyone who wants to come in, learn, and it'll be part of the foundation. Have you ever thought of something doing like that?
Yeah, possibly. But I think now the stuff where I'm trying to put my energy and focus is on things that are going to have a national scalable impact. So I'm trying to get away from doing week-to-week delivery of sessions and programs. Because when I look at what the game needs, I think my skill set and sort of my knowledge is better placed trying to attack the bigger things. So, that's not to say in a few years' time I wouldn't look at doing that. But right now I'm much more interested in, how can I help a club to set up systems to be able to grow, build the economy around basketball, and then be able to run the sessions themselves, and sort of act as an enabler and a facilitator as opposed to the deliverer myself.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, I think you've very much hitting the target right now. You've definitely got the biggest thing, in my opinion, that the Hoopsfix come out with, or one of them, is the Allstar Classic. That's been running since 2014, am I correct? Since 2014, every year I feel like there's been a build-up and growth in the Allstar Classic. And some of the names you've had in there, you've had Jamie Sohan in there, you've had Quinn Ellis in there, Ryan Richards has been in there, Luau Deng has been in there, you've had that's all correct names, right?
Luau, no. Ryan, no. But everyone else, yes.
Everyone else is there?
Yeah, so we in 2014... So that generation, that first year, the format was slightly different. It was first year was under 16s and ended up being under 26s. Was the two sort of age ranges. But Dan Clark played, Matthew Bynum Manning played in the older category, and that the younger ones, the under 16s, that generation was 98. So it was like Carl Wheatle, who's obviously now GB captain. Jelani Watson-Gow, who's obviously now GB point guard. But yeah, Lual and Ryan were a little bit before the Classic launched. I would say Ryan, he always says now that he got drafted off a mixtape. Like, we like that first year that I started, 2009, his generation, so 1990, 1991, that was like the sort of under 18s, under 19s at that time. So a lot of my energy, my focus in terms of highlights was around that sort of age group. And obviously he was the best player of that generation. So we had back in that time, we obviously we spoke a lot, and I was covering his journey and his sort of career progression. So now, unfortunately, he didn't play in the Classic. I would have loved it if he did play in the Classic, but he was a bit too old. So it was like, so if he's a 91, he's a 91. 98 was the first 98 borns were the first generation. So it was about 7 years. He was about 7 years too early.
Yeah. Okay. I can't like one thing was when Bronny came over, it was Hoopsfix. How happened?
So that happened. There was a guy who, I don't want to get it wrong. I need to actually go through my emails. I'm pretty certain I know who it is, but I don't want to name him in case I get it wrong. And he just said, "Oh, like there's this group that's looking at trying to run a game in the UK. Let me connect you with them." So we had an email exchange. That group was Paragon Marketing, who are sort of one of the biggest high school marketing agencies in the US. They work regularly with Nike, ESPN, sort of all the big dogs. The Nike EYBL Scholastic league that launched last year, they're part of that. And they said, we're bringing Sierra Canyon High School, which, I don't know, something to do with high school rules. They couldn't be called their high school name, so it was called California Basketball Club, even though
they couldn't be called Sierra Canyon.
No, so officially it was called California Basketball Club, but it was Sierra Canyon High School.
Okay, makes sense.
We're doing a European tour, so they were coming to London, Paris, and Milan. I think was it UK, France, and Italy. And we needed teams to play in London. Can you put together a team and help us set up? So obviously at that time, we had a pretty strong U19 group. Quinn Ellis, who obviously is now, playing in the EuroLeague with Milan, and GB starting point guard. Michael Bell, who's obviously doing well in Division 1 in the States at the moment. Latrell Davis, like a
bunch of big names.
A bunch of good group of guys. And we were like, let's bring them together. So so there was obviously money to do that, right? But the decision on our part was let's try and win. Like we're not let's invest the money in doing this properly. So we ran a 3-day training camp in East London, based out of Barking Abbey. Brought everyone in. The whole thing was madness. Like, so GB under 18s were playing in the European Championships. So a bunch of the players were in Turkey. I think it was Turkey at the time. Even though I think our camp, I can't even remember, you're going to have to fact check me, but I feel like our camp started on the Monday, and I feel like the game was on a Thursday maybe.
So 3 days.
I don't say, it was something like that.
Yeah, something.
There was a gap, and basically the European Championships finished on the Sunday. So we assumed that
they'd go straight back.
They would fly back, that day. We quickly realised that for some reason they were not planning on being flown back for another 3 days. They were going to stay in Turkey. So rather than being able to save money because GB would be paying for their travel back, we then had to pay for flights to fly back. I think it was like 5 or 6 of the guys early so that they could join us. So we brought them back, met them at Stansted, brought them to the accommodation that we had in Barking, and then obviously our coaching staff, which again, I'd say that we had in my mind, the best coaching staff that we could have with Lloyd Gardner, Jackson Gibbons, and Matt Guyman.
It's a great lineup.
Which, world class. And so we ran a 3-day camp. we bought Michael Bell back from France because at that time he'd signed in France before he went to college, and obviously we managed to get Quinn back as well to do the camp, and then sort of announced the game. I mean, there has never been, for anything that we've done, hype like that. The moment the announcement went out, like it was just
insane.
It was crazy. DMs, messages, when the tickets go on sale, and then obviously we put the tickets on sale, and again, even now, like with the Classic, people we're at Crystal Palace, that sells out every year at 1,700. The next step after that in terms of venues in London is the Coffee Box, which is 5,500, a little under 5,500. I don't think the Classic could sell out Coffee Box at this point. I just, based on my experience, what we've done, I feel like it'd be a stretch. Maybe with a long enough lead in time, maybe with a bit more investment in marketing. But at this point, unless we had a very, very big name that everyone knew, I'd just struggle to see it. So I wasn't sure at all in any type of way that it was gonna sell out. And the moment we announced it, I started thinking, this might have a shot. And then when the tickets went on sale, I spoke about it on Stan's podcast, asked for an update, I think it was 24 hours in, and it was 3,500 tickets sold in the first 24 hours. And then at that point it was it's on, it's going to sell out. And sure enough, it sold out. There was a whole drama before, in the run up to it. Tickets were moving very, very fast. Paragon had made the decision not to do allocated seating. So we were then having some conversations. I started saying, I think this could get a bit techie. Do you know what I mean? It's people are going to be coming in, everyone's going to rush in, everyone's going to want to. Exactly. And so then they started getting nervous. So then they ended up shutting the ticket sales before the capacity of the whole arena had sold. So it was about, I think the final number was around 5,000. I think there's 5,250 seats or something like that. So there's one little block that you can see in some of the footage up on the corner of one of the LED screens up in the top bowl. That's empty. That's not as full as it should be, but it would have sold out. And obviously, it was incredible. I think, probably the highlight, or one of the highlights of Hoopsfix for sure. For us to get the win, for us to have it televised on ESPN, for us to have the crowd support, there is, I always say that there's a disconnect between the younger generation, I guess the participation base and the consumer base, and that is one of the few occasions that we've had that core young audience that have all bought tickets, that have all come there, and they're all back in the crowd. And again, I've said it before, but the moment the ball was thrown up, well, actually during the warm ups, obviously everyone was going crazy during the warm ups. Bronny was throwing down 360s or whatever, and the crowd was going crazy for him, and I started being a little bit concerned that
the UK guys aren't getting enough.
Exactly. Right? Are the crowd going to be backing them? This is going to be a bit embarrassing, in the same way when GB play Lithuania at the Coffee Box. It's all Lithuanians, you know what I mean? And I'm I don't want this to be that. And so I was a bit nervous about it. But then when the ball was thrown up, the moment it went up, the crowd was just back in Hoopsfix. And so that was just such a beautifully organic moment that really showed, for me, what the potential of this sport could be. If you can build that connection between that participation base and that youth base, that's what it can look like. So it's definitely an all-time moment. I'm hoping that obviously it won't be the peak all-time moment, and we will have moments that will top it in the future. 100%. But at the moment, that was 2022, so that was 4 years ago. But I would say that we haven't had a moment since then that's been sort of close to that.
I think in terms of events, because you guys hold a lot of not private but more indoor closed house events. For example, the Age of Wilson one you guys just did recently, that wasn't closed doors, but that was limited ticket sales. Things like that, when I see that, Age of Wilson is a massive name in basketball in general all over the world. A lot of people look up to someone like Age of Wilson. For you guys to bring Age of Wilson over, get that connect over, I think that for someone who's looking at from outside perspective, that really shows, okay, if I want to look for basketball, a very first page I will go to is someone who's going to co-sign it. So Hoopsfix has already been co-signed by these big names. So how does it feel for you when you feel someone's coming over like AJ Wilson, do you have a certain way you'd run a program? So when Bronny came over, was it completely different? Did you have like, okay, is it going to be a thing where you want Hoopsfix to shine the light, or do you want AJ to shine the light? Because that's always something I've thought of. If I want to run an event, do I want my people at the event to be shining the light, or do I want Flagrant takes to be the one shining the light? And I think other people at home can have the same gist. Like, how would you, someone who's done so many events and been through so many things, how would you take the next step to grow to eventually be like, okay, now we are the foundation of anything event ways based in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what it is. You know, like a Hoopsfix event, like a specific Hoopsfix event, which really there's only two, which is the Allstar Classic and the Pro-Am. There are our own controlled events. You know, for those events specifically, I have no qualm about who is covering it and who shines a light on it. You know, we are very loose with media accreditation. We let anyone in that wants to come in, because the way I see it is that, you know, any eyeballs are good eyeballs, and there's no way of not knowing that it's a Hoopsfix event, because they're all wearing Hoopsfix kits and there's Hoopsfix branding everywhere. So like, you know, the more photos and more video that's produced, the better it is. So I'm not protective over it in any type of way. And actually, you know, we use software to track all of the posts that are made, and then all of that is cumulative. All of that is put together, and the accumulation of those numbers is what we then sell to sponsors to say, this is the reach of the event. It's millions and millions of views, and that combining everyone's is much bigger than we would get ourselves on our own individual platforms. Stuff like Asia Wilson, you know, that is a client event, so that we deliver through the agency. Hoopsfix obviously ends up being a part of it, because that is the marketing platform that helps promote it. But that is a client event. We report to Nike. Nike are the ones that are bringing Asia Wilson over. Nike are the ones that then approach us and say, we're bringing Asia Wilson over. Here's the brief. So in this instance, for example, they said, we want 3 moments, one for creators, one for youth, like under 12s, like sort of, you know, very young clinic, and then one which is like an energy sort of all-star gamey type vibe. And so we will then put together a pitch of like, this is what we think should happen. So, you know, the theme of this tour that she's doing, so she's doing a global tour for the launch of the A2. So she's visited Berlin, London, Hilversum in the Netherlands, and which is where Nike HQ is, and where's the other place she went? And Paris, sorry. So the theme of it is the Asia Wilson show. So for the creator moment, we built a set. You know, we built these retro stacker TVs which had moments of her career on or whatever.
All of that stuff.
And then she was interviewed by Julia Z, and we had creators there, as well as a bunch of Barking Abbey students that were watching, and it was a Q&A sort of about her career, and then she had sort of one-on-one time with the creators. Under 12s, obviously because it was a Barking Abbey, they have a partnership with Let's Get Active, which obviously, you know, Lewis. So Lewis came in, ran a session with his under 12s, which she supported on. You know, she was very involved, and I think, you know, that whole day worked because she's who she is.
Like she was giving good energy.
100%. Like if it wasn't her, if it was someone that was a bit more laid back, a bit more just wouldn't work like that. But it was all her. And then the All-Star game, we basically pitched. So actually, there was sort of 3 elements that were meant to happen in the All-Star game. One was that she was hosting. Then she was coaching, and then she was going to play. So it was the sort of theme was Asia does it all, and showing that she could do everything. But unfortunately, she had a bit of an injury, like leg soreness or whatever. So she didn't practice, she didn't work out in the morning, and then she couldn't play. And so she did the hosting, and then coached both teams sort of in the game or whatever. But like, again, in that instance, like it's not a closed event. We opened it up. But there's very limited spots because of where it is. And that comes down to this. There are so few venues to be able to do anything, especially at last minute notice, especially to give us the freedom of what we need to do to make the space look good. You know, there was obviously, I mean, you could tell there's a significant investment in branding the space. And so you need a venue that is going to be okay with potentially drilling stuff on walls and, you know, and all this stuff. But again, like that is, it's as inclusive as it can be in terms of being accessible, but there are limited spots, and so you've got limited people that can come in. But yeah, that's sort of how it works. Like there are, you know, we probably unfairly get credit for things that are not us. Like I would give Nike credit for that. Like it's us in the sense of
it's got our face on it.
yeah, like we help promote it. We're obviously doing all the operations, logistics, and planning of it, and the event management of it.
Yeah.
But Nike are the ones funding it. You know, Nike are the ones that are bringing Asia over, not us. And so that's sort of how the agency works. And the agency is really that's what pays my bills. Like that's what funds everything. Because that's where the money is. Like, you know, our own stuff, the Allstar Classic, the Summer League, they're what I'd probably class as passion projects. Obviously, there's money involved because we've got sponsors involved, but that really funds it.
Funds all of
there's
stuff,
money in, money out. It's not like, oh yeah, there's loads of money left. And obviously they're both users. They're both run through the foundation, and they're both fundraisers. So we basically get sponsors to cover the costs, and then all the ticket sales is what is used to then reinvest back into the game to renovate basketball courts and whatever else.
And I think leading on to that, I think that shows how hard it is for the UK to develop in terms of basketball. Because if someone who has your name and status is just putting everything back into the business and is finding it hard to get a return on just Hoopsfix alone without the agency, how can someone step in from another country and be like, you guys don't have this core, you guys don't have that core? I mean, where's the funding, right?
Yeah.
So I think that comes back to a question I had was, how can someone like me or the average viewer at home be able to help with this lack of infrastructure and lack of build that the UK has with basketball? Because someone might be watching at home and be like, listen, I feel like my home court has nothing to it. Don't have nets, rims are broken, might have 8-foot rims, so how can someone like the person at home help out and reach out? Because I know you and Hoopsfix Foundation did the renovation of courts. You guys did Brighton Beach, Turnpike Lane and Clapham, am I right?
Clapham and Hackney.
Yeah.
And then you got a few more in the pipeline.
Put North Wembley court in there. So yeah, I need my home court renovated. But how would someone at home be able to help and be like, okay, I want to help the UK basketball infrastructure grow?
So court specifically, and I think this is like really what we're trying to do with the foundation. So when we did Clapham, which is the first court we did in 2021, it wasn't just about doing the court. We released a 5,000 word how to renovate your local basketball court guide for free. That you can download it from the Hoopsfix Foundation website. That has everything I know about renovating basketball courts. Probably needs a little bit of an update, but it's all there. And so if anyone actually wanted to renovate their basketball court, go and read the guide. It's all there. That said, we have funds that we put into courts. Not a lot, but what. Let's say that we run the Classic, and normally ticket sales will bring in somewhere between £12,000 and £15,000.
Yeah,
that money is then split up across. We can then go to a council and say we can invest £3,000 or £5,000 into the hoops.
Yeah,
but we need to raise another 50k to do the floor or whatever else. But because we have money, it opens up the door for a conversation. We're not just like hoping. And so even now, there's some courts in Preston, up near Manchester that have been done, that have recently been resurfaced. Resurfaced. The council funded the resurfacing of them. We had a call yesterday, and then they installed the old hoops, the old indestructible gladiator hoops that no one likes. So obviously everyone's complaining. It's like you've renovated, you spent all this money, and you put in the old hoops. So we're like, well, we can potentially help out with funding. Put in some acrylic backboards and nice gooseneck posts or whatever. I always say that the beautiful thing about British basketball is that there is such little infrastructure and there's so little hierarchical staffing or organisation that anyone can do anything. And so, whatever anyone has a problem with, whether it's the local basketball court, whether it's the lack of a club in their area, whether it's the lack of sessions for under sixes, they can go and do it. And I think with the internet, there are more and more resources than have ever existed. Obviously with AI, put it into ChatGPT, put it into Claude or whatever, you can get a step-by-step of what to do. It's just a case of actioning it and doing it. So, what I would love to see, and sort of part of the reason I always wanting to come onto these podcasts, is to sort of spread that word that we all need to take collective responsibility for where basketball is. Definitely. It's not on anyone. It's no more my responsibility than your responsibility. And if we all take our own little corner of wherever we are and say, how can I make this better, then collectively that should make the sport grow.
Listen, well, you lot heard it here first. Just give back to the community. Make sure that you guys are investing your time. If you want to go out there, the renovation 5,000 word document is there. And I think a big thing is, so for me personally, I'm based in Wembley, so the court I play in, the community there for the court we have is wild. Like, if you saw the court from outside perspective, I have no idea about it, you'd think, oh, it's just like a rundown court, bad nets, bad rims. But every summer, there's a minimum 30, 40 people there. And it's only two sides. And it's like, if the UK has the people and the demand for it, but the lack of infrastructure means it's so hard to meet that demand and give you that supply to go out there and do it. So I think in terms of the next steps for UK basketball, that's one thing that I'd say is start from community up. Don't go from like SOB down, because that will kind of create a difference between, okay, how can someone who's in the community now go up to the SOB if they can't even get from their community to the next level? Do you know what I mean? So that's how I see it.
I was gonna say, like, I've basically gone everywhere for basketball pretty much. So I've been Ravens Court, Deptford, I went up to Leicester, Birmingham. I've been to a few courts. There's like a community with every single court. But I feel like there's something that needs to bring that somewhat community all over. Like, even I went to Preston, I got a couple of my friends go to my school. There's so much people that play basketball, so many little communities. It's like they don't know how, like, they need a way to come together in a sense, or have like, I don't know.
Have a community to come to and be like, okay, guys, listen, this is where I want to play.
Yeah.
If I want to play here. So like you said, from the course in Preston, those people who play in the basketball coach should very much go on to play in academy level and academy to a pro. But if they don't have that reach of, I can't even get shots up at my local court because a rim is run down, how could someone ever dream, okay, now I'm going to go do this academy, go there and professional? Luckily, the UK, I feel like one thing with us is we're hungry for a lot of stuff. Because of the fact that we have less, it normally means that we do more. It's so like, I feel like a lot of people, like I heard stories about Luau Deng, how he would run like 10 kilometers plus to go to his training session and back. Didn't take bus, didn't take car, he ran there. And sometimes he'd wear a weighted vest. I've heard so many stories about it. And that just shows, I feel like that's one of the...
But do you think kids are doing that now?
No.
Right, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree.
Yeah. I feel like the issue is that now people have become, with how much access we have to, like, if I want to go out and find information about anything, all I need to do is ask, listen, do that for me, right? Before, obviously, there's more of a, you have to go out there, you have to go on it and do it, right?
I think a lot of people miss passion. Because I remember, I think I seen it.
No, I think passion is there, but I think passion is not included with the work, if that makes sense, right?
I think
there's a lot of people that like the idea of being a basketball player, not the work it takes to be a basketball player.
Because I think I seen a video of you. I think you were doing mad hours. I think you were even doing edits on benches or something.
Yeah,
I seen that video. And then the little marketing bus. I think a long way back.
Hoop bus.
Was the hoop bus?
No. What was it?
The Backbridge basketball bus.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. How was that?
Backbridge basketball. I mean, the whole thing was it was sick. Like that was so that was 2010. That was the first summer. The first full summer that I was doing all this stuff. Marketing agency in East London approached me and said that they want to create an organic fan campaign to support national teams. They wanted me to front it up with a guy called Silky.
The MC, right?
And so we spent the summer traveling the country, following the GB team around. I've always had a thing about camper vans. Like I like camper vans, innit? Like, and so I'd got a license. It's called a C1, I think, like to be able to drive.
I can't believe
like proper big buses. So it's a 24-foot motorhome with a shower, toilet, like everything in it. And so we branded it up. We had Backbridge basketball all across the side. We travelled the country in it. Like that, GB were trying to qualify for Eurobasket and for the Olympics.
Yeah, I remember that
that summer. And so we basically spent the summer following around, trying to build support for the team. It was amazing. Like one of the best summers of my life. It was such good fun, and I think that was my first real exposure to the national team. To a bunch of guys that I have pretty good relationships with now. I think it helped form a lot of my sort of thinking and the foundation of my thinking around British basketball and what needs to be done to help it.
That's great. I think that segues perfectly onto our next section, which is going to be a bit of a Q&A, but obviously we'll discuss over it. A question we had come in from someone watching at home was, what do you believe your biggest accomplishment that you have achieved in the however long you've been doing this for, from all the way from 2009 when it started as Border and Brawl to now where you're doing events of AJ Wilson and Hoopsfix Select and all of these things?
I think the biggest thing is that I'm just still here. Like, I'm 16, 17 years in, and consistently I've been showing up every day.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen many people in that time period come and go. People launch podcasts, people launch websites, people saying they're going to be the new home of British basketball, and they quickly realise that they're putting in hours and they're only getting 20 views, and giving up because they
don't see
nothing in return.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd be lying if I was to say that I'm seeing a return that I want to get. I have very big ambitions, and I know what I'm trying to do, and I'm not even close at the moment, but I'm still here, haven't given up, and I think that counts for a lot. And there's a lot of stuff now that I think only comes from being around for so long. I don't think the biggest basketball brands in the world, whether it's Nike, Jordan, the NBA, USA Basketball, trust me, if I hadn't been around for so long and doing what I've been doing for so long.
Showing up every day.
So, yeah, I think that's like, there's not a single moment. It's just the fact that I'm still here, still going.
Still consistent.
I think that's the key for everything.
It is. And then another question we had was, the Hoopsfix All-Star team is a very big thing in the UK for British ballers. When I used to play basketball, I knew I wasn't going to make the team, but like the vision was nice, having it up there, seeing it. How would a player be able to get on that certain team? Is there a way you scout? Is there a way you look? Is there a place you can apply? Like, how do you guys do it?
So that's probably the question that I get in the DMs
the most. Yeah.
How do I get selected for the Hoopsfix Allstar Classic?
Yeah.
So yeah, we have depth charts. So I have a spreadsheet which basically has every player that we think we should be tracking or keeping an eye on at each position. And then as the season goes on, we do a first selection of sort of how we think it looks. And then we circulate it to a bunch of trusted coaches up and down the country. And we ask them what they think. And basically asking whether there's any glaring omissions. Now the thing is, and I say this all the time, I would say that of the 24 boys, 24 girls that are selected, there are probably 5 to 8 locks that everyone is unanimous on. They're 100%, no doubt they should be in.
Yeah.
When you then go from sort of 8 to 10 to 24, it's very subjective. Yeah. And actually you can probably make an argument that someone that's ranked number 30 has the same case that someone's the number 24, right? And I think there's two things in it. One, it's done positionally. So it's not about am I one of the best top 24 players in the country. It's am I one of the best players by my position. Because we're not just going to put out 24 guards. That's just not going to happen, right? So that's one thing. And then it is incredibly hard. And I remember even back when Den Camp used to be happening, I would be on some of those calls around selections of the players. It was the same thing. There are, after that initial, and the reality is, of every generation, there is only 2, 3 that are going to go pro. If at all. And what we're trying to do as well is not just about, and this is where it also gets even more subjective, it's not just about who is the best player right now, performing right now. It's about potential. Because the goal is, and the most important factor and how we're actually measuring our success is how many make the GB senior team in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So if you're 7 foot and you've only been playing for a year, but you can jump out the gym and you have all sorts of potential, you are way more likely to make it than a 5'10" guard averaging 35 in under 18 National League.
Makes sense.
Right?
Makes sense.
So now in the most recent GB window, of the 12 players that were in the squad, 9 of them have played in the Classic. So it's like we're now getting to a place 10 years down the line where we are not missing, and the ones that haven't, Luke Nelson, Gabe Olashaney, and who was the other one? Jabril Bello. Jabril was the only miss. So Luke and Gabe were both too old. It was around after they left the country and gone to college. Jabril was a late developer. Pains me that we missed. There's been a couple misses over the years. And that's what I always say. It's like, we're not perfect. And I try to say this to people, everyone complains. We get messages from parents, we get messages from coaches. You need to let this guy, you need to let this guy. It's like, you're talking to me like we're trying to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Like
This is real.
it's in our interest to get it
Yeah.
To
right.
get it
Like we
right,
are
yeah.
doing the best we can with the knowledge that we have.
100%.
And it's not going to be perfect every year.
Yeah.
But I would say our track record, when you look at the players that are going on to play at the highest levels,
There's a bridge.
the best ones we are not missing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
It's simple as that. So, you know, I'll put our record on selections against anyone's. I think it's been pretty decent over the years.
Oh, that is. Oh, listen. There's nothing but facts here, yeah. It's not because there's always been, especially with Hoopsfix Select All Star Team. Like even when I was playing, that like image of the All Star Team for Hoopsfix, I think has such a big name to it and has so much pressure to it. Just for a player, now you got to think about it from your side. I don't even want to know how much that must build up on you guys, because there's like thousands and hundreds of thousands playing across the UK all want to be in that same 24 spot. So I hear it. You have to be able to know how to balance these things. But is there the last question we have for you that someone sent in is, what do you think your next step or challenges that you want to take on? Because someone like you's accomplished so much in your career, how would you be like, okay, now this is the next thing I want to do?
So, I mean, the next big step is a facility. You know, I've been trying to do that for probably close to 3 years now. Sort of the baby step in between that, which I guess is the actual next step, is we've just taken out a year lease on a space in East London. Again, that's the first physical space that we've had control of. 700 square feet, sort of mezzanine with a sort of top floor, bottom floor, which is going to be a sort of creator hub, co-working space, which we're going to be based out of, but also, you know, through a closed network. It's not going to be publicly advertised, but through a closed network, we are going to allow certain people to pay a very small amount every single month to be able to access space. It's going to have a podcast studio, you know, stuff that like this that we're recording here, we could record there, and it'll be a lot cheaper there than it is here. And I think that's like sort of the first stage of sort of bringing people together. You know, I think that like, especially, you know, the way the world is going with the proliferation of the internet, with the proliferation of social media, with the proliferation of AI, people are craving human connection. And I think the more things that I can do that are based in human connection and physical spaces and bringing people together, the more future-proofing we're going to be doing of ourselves in the future. And so, you know, there's, like I said, I literally got the keys 2 days ago. We're now trying to put together the plans of what we're going to do before we move anything in. Obviously, we want to put in flooring and decorations on the walls and hang jerseys and all this kind of stuff. So we're trying to just do a bit of interior design, which is not my background, but like figure out exactly how we want it to look and how we want the space to work. Make that investment into the space, fit it out, and then I'm hoping by April we'll be fully functional, and then sort of, you know, be able to do stuff like talks and panels and workshops and sort of all this stuff. I
mean, I have a nice little side. This would look nice on the wall.
Man. We'll have digital screens so you can load up your logos on it, all that kind of stuff. So like that is like the next step, and that is building towards a facility. You know, obviously I've spoken a lot about the challenges with getting a purpose-built basketball space. It's incredibly expensive, and the economics are incredibly difficult to make work.
The warehouse, I've seen that video. Warehouse, that was insane.
And that is the reality. Like, you know, any type of warehouse space, if it's in a good location, you're looking at least 50 grand a month. And when you look at, I mean, the revenue that you can generate from a space like that pretty much comes down to
it's a loss every time you're gonna do it.
You have to fit in as many hoops as you can and as many revenue generating things in the space as possible. So a bar, cafe, a treatment room, a gym, like sort of other little extras that are going to help make it not lose money. But it's realistically the only way you're going to be able to do it is to get a council on board to give you peppercorn rent, which is, you know, next to nothing, to then, you know, operate as a charitable entity like we'd operate through the foundation. You know, the office that we've got is being run through the foundation. To then be able to make it work. But it's, you know, that is the goal. Like I really think that is sort of one of the keys to making all the stuff that I want to make work. I think the office is a nice sort of intermediary step, but in the long term, definitely want a space. I'm on the Mayor of London Basketball Task Force, and we had a meeting yesterday, and sort of there is a lot of conversation in there about facilities and how we can get facilities working. So yeah, like that's sort of the next big thing that I would want to get done, is that. largely so that I can do it, prove that it can work,
and show that
and
you
then
have.
and then scale it, and then build one in Manchester, build one in
100%.
Birmingham, and then
100%.
build a network of them up and down the country.
Because that's one thing everyone's saying, oh, but it's London, not anyone else. But 100% I hear that.
Yeah, that would be sick. I think there's a lot of people in the basketball community itself that if that happened would benefit highly
Oh, yeah, 100%.
of stuff like that.
100%.
Now, we are known for our flagrant takes. That is what we are branded about. We have our hot takes. So we have a couple here for you. If you have any that you want to say, you can let us know. But one that I have anyways is obviously through Hoopsfix, you guys see a lot of teams, see a lot of players. Who do you think in UK is the best Prem team and the best EABL team?
You mean historically, as in like who's the best club?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would go as far to say there is a single one. I think the ones that historically have been the best are the ones that people know. So academies wise, nervous about even saying names, but academies wise, it's the ones that we consistently hear that are consistently competing for titles, which is the Barking Abbeys of the world, the Colas of the world, the Myerscoes, the Charnwoods, the Itchens of the world. Funny enough, like I actually watch very little junior National League basketball now. I feel like the Academy League has. So I was involved in the founding of the EABL and the WABL in 2014, and an unintended consequence of that was that it did sort of cannibalise the under-18 National League and sort of made the junior National League a little bit less relevant. And so I look back and I look on, whether things can be done differently but as a result of that, like, all focus really is on at junior level is on sort of the under 19 level. So we're actually, I haven't said this publicly, but we are, I would say, quite likely to be launching an under 19 league next season.
Ooh, heard it here first.
But there's a few things that need to be ironed out. So there's some sponsor conversations to be had.
Oh, for sure.
But we are in some pretty deep conversations, and if we do that, I think it's going to be
very exciting.
This is
Very
exciting. This would bring a lot of waves to the UK scene. So that was a really poor answer of your question. So I'm going to be sitting on the fence a lot. I apologise. That's okay.
I've got one. So what do you say? The UK has NBA level talent, but the development system is one of the worst in Europe.
I mean, I would say that I probably agree with that if we're talking about raw talent. The amount of European coaches that I've been sitting next to that have come over here and said, "Oh, we'd kill to have kids of that size, kids that could jump that high or whatever." The development system is nowhere close to being good enough. I think a large part of that is kids just start playing very, very late. I didn't start playing until I was 14. By that point you're already a decade behind a lot of other European countries, and so part of what I would like to see the sport do is build out the infrastructure at a much younger level. So basketball is much more accessible to younger age groups. I'm careful of saying that because I think there's a lot of kids that are absolutely deluded about, like I was when I was young, by the way. So I'm not saying that's critical of them. I was exactly the same. Kids think they're going to be able to reach levels and they've never seen the levels. They don't actually understand what the levels are. And part of that is a product of the fact that all of the top kids leave the country. So then your measuring stick is down here because you're seeing kids on a weekly basis that actually are unfortunately not going to reach any type of level, and you're the best of them, and that gives you I remember when I left school, like in year 11, I remember I've still got the everyone signs your jumper or whatever, and I've got kids saying, "I'll see you in the NBA." It's like I couldn't even shoot a weak-handed layup. You know what I mean? Like I was so far off the level, but I didn't know that because I was the best player in my school. So I was like, and I think that whole like, we're very much in a bubble here. Like we're not exposed to anything
wild or like
no real extreme levels. And I think we need to work out a way to create those crossovers. You know, whether it's taking teams abroad, whether it's bringing overseas teams here, whether it's, you know, getting Quinn Ellis in a gym with a 16-year-old and just showing them, because I'm sure that there are kids in this country that think they could beat Quinn Ellis one-on-one.
100%.
You know,
100%,
so like there has got to be some way of calibrating the levels so that people understand, you know, what a future NBA player looks like. When you know, when Luol Deng was playing for England under 18s, I think it was, he was averaging 45.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, like Jeremy Sohan was 15 years old playing men's Division 1. And as a 15-year-old was playing the ABL, dropping 32 and 15 against Barking Abbey. It's like, you know, as a 15-year-old, like people don't understand that. Like, and we don't see enough of
that type of
exactly talent. Because so many of them then just leave. You know, Jeremy then left, and then we don't see him again forever. Like, and so you know, I do think that is one of the massive challenges that we have as a sport, is trying to get players to understand, you know, what the levels are.
100%.
So we have a ranking system for our take. So a common foul is you agree with it. This, like, you understand this is something. Flagrant 1 is you're like kind of 50-50. I'm hear it, but I don't hear it. And the flagrant 2 is I absolutely disagree. I don't like that one. So the one that Ali just said, which is the UK has the talent but not the infrastructure, where would you be on that one in terms of the ranking system?
I'd say common foul.
Common foul, yeah, that is a lot. Now, before you press record, I heard you came up with a flagrant take saying the level of content creation is better than the level of basketball we have currently in the UK. That is a hot take. Expand on that for us, please.
I mean, we have a very healthy content creator ecosystem, and a lot of people from outside of the UK will comment on that to me. And actually, I was listening to a podcast with an SLB player that plays at Cheshire, and they were asking him how he feels playing in the UK and stuff. One of the things he said, which surprised me, but actually it makes sense when I think about it, is he said, just the level of exposure we get, like the media we get is great. Because, you know, if they're going and playing in, I don't know, Bulgaria or wherever, like, there are not cameras on a baseline. They're not getting mixtapes. They're not getting highlights. It's just the broadcast. And so, you know, we have, like, for the Allstar Classic, I think last year we accredited maybe 45 people, something like that. Like, most of them are very young, like between 16 and sort of 20, that coming with a camera, want to either shoot stills or video. And I think that if you go and try and do that in France, Spain, Italy,
a lot more restricted.
There's going to be there ain't going to be that many people that want to do it in the first place. And so there is a load of people that are interested in content creation. As a result, I think we've got some very, very skilled creators. You know, most notably is Joe Pinchin, who now works for the Chicago Bulls, but he started here in the UK on the baselines, and upskilled himself to the point where he's now working for an NBA team and is, you know, a senior digital content manager or something, whatever he is. Maybe he's director. Apologies if I undersold it, but like, you know, some of the edits I see from some of the events we run, I'm like, that's absolutely sick. Like, that's actually almost NBA level. That's EuroLeague level. And I think that, you know, some of the freelancers that we hire for our agency work, you know, whether it's David Adediro, who's now in Toronto, whether that it's OT, who's doing an edit now for us of Asia Wilson, they are world-class editors. We have more world-class content creators than we do world-class basketball players.
I mean, as a content creator, I'm not gonna disagree. I'm not gonna disagree with that one. I say that's a flagrant 1 for me, because I feel like there's with the content creation, sometimes it can be like you see so many, and that sometimes it can not oversaturate the field, but your perspective on what social media should look like as basketball becomes different. But I think, no, definitely in terms of social media in the UK, it's a lot, like, the level is high.
And also, like I said, like the reason they're not getting the views that they maybe should be getting on the stuff they're producing is because the level of basketball is not high enough. True. If they were creating edits of future NBA players, they're getting hundreds of thousands of views, millions of views or whatever. But unfortunately, the level of basketball is not good enough. And so as a result of that,
correlates with each other. That's changed my mind, actually. I've gone to common foul.
I'll say common foul from the beginning. I've got one more. But it's Ashley Hamilton said, he's saying, 1v1 doing good for 1v1 doing good is not bad for 3v3, and 3v3 doing good is not bad for 5v5. So then because now it's like people branching off to 1v1, 3v3, 5v5. So, but what's he taking? Yeah, he's saying
So what's the take?
that basically each one 1v1, 3v3, 5v5 all kind of like
They all correlate.
they
and
all help
bring-
each other
help each
regardless.
other.
Like we need to stop kind of hating.
To be honest, for me, I don't like the 1v1 scene for basketball. In my
Why?
opinion, in the UK. That's for me, because I feel like the 1v1 scene puts a lot of people on a pedestal where if they put themselves in a 5v5 situation,
Nah, you lost me there because
It's not happening.
1v1 is pure hoops though. That's, you know what I'm saying?
okay, but think, okay, now in Europe League, how many guys are you seeing get the ball and taking 3 dribbles in the same spot, then crossing
But
over?
that's what I'm saying.
and
It's
then
kind
doing
of
all that
like
stuff?
its own little league in a sense.
Exactly, no, but it's
But
not helping out the
hoop.
5v5.
It's still hoop though. It's good hoops. Me personally.
What do you think about that? Because
I would say that I would give that probably a flagrant 1.
yeah,
I think they're like, well, there's a few things. There has been an overemphasis on 3x3
yeah,
in the sense that I do think it's taken away from 5 on
it's
5.
undermined.
So there are courts that have been renovated that are
3v3
there is a space for a 5 on 5 court,
Yeah.
and they put 2 half courts at each end rather than just making it a 5 on 5 court.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's actually now hurting 5 on 5 because you can't play full
Yeah.
court because you've extended it. And then, you know, from a governing body perspective, you know, UK sport funds elite sport, funds medal hopes. 3x3 obviously has a greater chance. We have a greater chance of medaling a 3x3 than a 5 on 5. And as a result, there is money for 3x3. And as a result, I feel like the BBF, before it went into liquidation, has over-indexed on investment and focus on 3x3 because that's where the money is.
Yeah,
And as a result, they massively
undermined
neglected
5v5.
5v5. 1v1, like I actually love it. Like I love watching it. But I think there's certain brand of 1v1 which the level of theatrics,
See, that's what I
trash
said.
talking,
Yeah.
I'm not talking
you
about
know,
MK.
disrespect,
Yeah.
all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that can negatively impact
100%.
The sport.
the sport.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of young kids are watching that stuff,
Yeah.
and I personally don't want them looking at that thinking that's how I
Yeah,
gotta
that's
play
how
basketball in 5v5.
100%.
That's
Yeah.
you know, maybe I'm a bit old school like that.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm all for a bit of friendly trash talk in a game, but I think some of it takes it way too far.
Yeah.
And I think you know, I want all of our platformed players to be role models for
Yeah.
younger players coming through.
Yeah.
And so that needs to be done in the right way.
See, I agree with that. I feel like sometimes the 1v1 can be a very good scene for basketball,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it can also hurt the 5v5
I'm
basketball.
talking
as well.
about ISO hoops. off
No,
the
no, but they're doing a
dribble,
good
ball
thing.
aside,
But what I'm
yeah,
saying
not
is, but I'm
talking
saying,
about
say,
MK.
but not even certain people, but
Yeah.
1v1 in general.
Yeah.
Now, if I went to a local scrimmage and I said, okay, pick out the best 1v1 player. If we now play 1v1, let's say he beats me 15-0. If now we go into a game situation where he has to play in an organized
That's
set,
different.
he won't be able to play in that set because he's only playing 1v1. And 1v1, you have all the space in the world.
I mean,
Organized.
they're all very different types of basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's how I see it anyways.
I'll take that flagrant one, man. He's not
Flagrant one.
Flagrant one.
Are you up to date with the NBA? Or are
I'm a
you-
casual fan. I mean, obviously, I know
Casual fan.
Bam dropped 83 the other night.
Yeah, so obviously Bam did a crazy. Do you have any opinions on that Bam situation? Because I feel like that might have been one of the most unethical 83 points I've
He was
seen
getting
in my
fouled.
life.
He was getting fouled.
43 shots at the free throw line. I've never seen that before in my life.
But also, he's got to make them still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still within the game. Like, I mean, like, obviously, it's my view is, you know, there's been a lot of negativity around that. But I'm like, he still did it. He still had to show it. And if it's that easy to do, other
Then
people
why
would do
everyone
it. Do you know what I
do?
mean?
Yeah,
Like, so
exactly.
you got to like, you can't be putting asterisks on everything. Oh,
Yeah,
he had
yeah.
83, but it doesn't really count as the second, you know,
Yeah,
second highest
yeah,
scoring
yeah,
of all
exactly.
time because of this, and this. Like,
Yeah.
he still did it. He still showed up and did it, and he still had 30 in the first quarter, and he still hit 7 threes, which he's not really a shooter. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think people are just mad because it's him that got it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
people,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
people are
That
annoyed.
definitely plays a role.
Yeah,
100%.
people annoyed. Oh, it's Bam. They were expecting someone. I'll be honest. How can I wake up in the morning and I've seen Bam at the bio
83.
drop 83 points?
Yeah.
What? That's the last person. If you told me a list of 100 people and said, okay, all of these players, who's gonna drop 83? Bam would be
At the
100.
bottom.
There's no way.
Yeah.
But I think this segues into our last segment, which is there anything you feel like people at home and the people for anyone watching, if they want to take that next step, either in going into content creation, into helping the UK Basketball Network, what is some advice you would give them before we wrap it up?
I would say learn by doing. You know, we can spend hours researching and thinking about how to do something and planning it all out, but actually, you know, if you're trying to flip in, I don't know, let's say you're trying to learn how to light a room.
Yeah.
Are you going to learn better by reading about all the different ways to light a room, or are you going to learn better by setting up a room 100 times with different
100%.
lighting and seeing what does? You know what I mean? So at some point, like, you just have to do. I think a large part of, well, all of my career has just been learnt by doing. You know, I don't have formal qualifications in really anything that I'm doing now. It's just learnt by trying and doing. So I'd say learn by doing. I would say try and be around other people that are doing things that you want to do. I think a lot of what I'm trying to do now and working with younger people is sort of be the person that I wanted when I was younger.
Yeah.
I felt like I had to figure out a lot by myself. I mean, I did have a lot of people that I went to that were sort of mentors in a way that they didn't really realise. But I think that, you know, it feels good to help other people. Do you know what I mean? And I think if you actually ask, people will be willing to help. So find people that are doing what you want to do, ask them questions, learn from them, be in a room, and that should help you get on the right path.
Well, listen, I hope you know that you're definitely a mentor to someone like me, someone like us. The way that you have shaped UK basketball, you've led the pathway for people like us, people, other content creators to come in and be like, okay, Sam's done it.
It's possible.
Let's do it as well.
Yeah.
He's been doing it, as you said, showing up every day for 17 years. Why can't someone like us start, right? So,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
no, I appreciate you for coming on. This has been my favorite episode we've had so far. I hope you have enjoyed yourself. I hope you've enjoyed yourself today on the podcast. Maybe we can get a second one going. But listen, before you lot leave, make sure I'll put the Hoopsfix in the bio, I'll put the foundation in the bio, and I'll put the agency in the bio. And please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We want to hit 200 subscribers by the end of the month, please. If we hit 200 subscribers, we'll give away a pair of socks.
I'll give away a G-Wagon. How about that?
Listen, this has been Flagrant Takes. Hope you lot enjoyed the episode. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We will see you lot in the next one.